Hi, welcome to the 422 Business Advisor Show. I'm Patty Siegel, and I'm your host today. And I'm here with Denise Harrison of Patriot Pest Solutions in Trapp, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Denise.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. So, Patriot Pest Solutions is based in Trapp, Pennsylvania, as I mentioned, and you're in your 12th year of servicing people and customers throughout southeastern Pennsylvania. Can you talk a little bit about how you've grown and expanded over the past 12 years and some of the obstacles that you've overcome on your path to building a successful business that you have?
Well, our story isn't unlike many other small businesses. When you first start out, you have a concept and you have an idea, and you want to make that idea into something spectacular because you have big dreams. So our big dreams started out in our dining room. And so, I was the customer service representative, and James went out and did the servicing, and it was just the two of us. And from there it just evolved, Patty. We added a technician the following year, and then after that we needed another technician. And so then it got to the point where I didn't want technicians running in and out of my house and my bathroom all the time. So we eventually moved here to Trapp. Nice little building, and it gave us everything that we needed. And I think that you asked about the trials and the tribulations.
Yes.
I think that it's the biggest one's probably working with your spouse.
Yeah, I'm sure that could be a...
Well, think about it. I mean, I have a lot of colleagues say, how do you do it? And quite frankly, we have our jobs, and we excel in different things. And that's sort of what makes us a good pair, I guess. And we put up with each other. It'll be 25 years in November, so we're managing just fine.
Nice.
But that you just have to define roles, and you have to have the same common goal. And we did have the same common goal. So it had all the normal ups and downs, but quite frankly, it wasn't that hard for us because we're very like-minded people.
Yeah, and they also say if a couple's working together, if one has a strength here and one has a strength here, and it's a little unique and different, there's more synergy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Would you say you fall into that?
I couldn't agree more. Our personalities, while we get along very well, our personalities are different.
Yeah.
I tend to be a little bit, maybe a softer approach, and James is, from his military, is a little bit more direct and militant.
Yeah.
And so, I can be too soft, he can be too rigid, so we balance that out.
Nice. Well, that sounds like it's working
It's
for you.
working.
Good. So you decided to name your business Patriot in recognition of James, his brother, and his father's military service that you just touched on. And your slogan is eliminating pest is our patriotic duty. Like that. Talk about your appreciation for those who serve and how that has shaped your company's approach to serving your customers.
I can remember the day that I pushed James on the name, and you can, there's a lot of pest control companies out there, typically just the last name is thrown on there. And I don't begrudge that, but I wanted our business to say something about how we would do business.
Sure.
And and the fact that James comes from a military family, and his father's a wonderful man, and his brother is a wonderful family man as well. And when people go into the military, it can impact them different ways. I've seen in this family, what I've seen is a very positive outcome, and it's just James is a moral person, and when we talk about integrity, that's not something that we just throw around lightly. It really is a mindset to do the right thing. You can look at pest control. Well, you're going out, you're killing mice and ants. Really, what are we talking about here? But what you have to understand behind the scenes is, if you're not doing right by the customer in the end, then really do you have integrity? And I was looking through, just in preparation for this today, I was looking at our reviews, and everybody searches companies and they put a lot of credence in reviews, of course. We have 177 Google reviews, which is good. You know, it's a good place to be, but I looked at one that was just posted 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't read it. I only read it just in preparation for this, and I got goosebumps because it was exactly what I want people to think about our company. Can you indulge me? Do you mind if I?
I would love to hear it.
All
yeah.
right. It's not a
go
long
right
one.
Ahead. No,
it's
go.
not a long one, but it really does bring home what I was saying. So this person was local, and I'm going to cut some of it out, but basically here's what he says. I had the pleasure of meeting James at my home to inspect my house for bed bugs. And to my excitement, determined I don't have bed bugs. He let me know what to do to keep them out of my home. James was thorough. He answered my questions. Again, he says this is one of the only companies that provided a free inspection. I felt terrible that James arrived and what I thought needed to be treated didn't need a treatment at all. With gas prices up, time is money, I felt terrible for James coming out and leaving empty-handed. It's great to know there are still companies out there that do the right thing, have integrity, compassion, and courtesy.
Very nice.
That Patty, is
Yeah.
what that sums everything up in what I was saying about what we want to do in the community.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like
Touching
it.
on the military too, it's nice that people have the discipline for the business.
Yeah.
So they have a vision and the discipline, like you touched on, integrity, and I think having that whole package really makes for a strong company and growing your company as well.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
I really do.
So do you have any other reviews that you want to share?
No, I have to be very forthright. All of our reviews are fantastic, but that one
Yeah,
just
it was
meant
really
the most
nice.
to me. It wasn't about fixing their problem. It was telling them they didn't have a problem
Yeah.
and telling them how to prevent a problem from occurring.
Okay.
And there are so many times, Patty, that we get these calls where these large companies have gone out, and I'm not slamming names around, but they'll go out and they'll sell a service that's not needed.
Oh, sure.
And bed bug services are thousands of dollars. Termite work's thousands of dollars. These aren't cheap services. People are, calling people in for quotes and recommendations and trusting them. And now I know why some people are bitter, because not everybody's forthright in what they're saying. And James has no problem going out and saying, you don't have a termite problem. You're good.
That's nice.
You
Nice to
don't
know.
need to do that.
So they're more likely in the future to call James and Patriot
Yes.
when there is an issue, so that you can come out and service it, and you're not going to overservice or oversell.
Exactly, and that's the feedback that we get, and that's what we want. It's great to solve the problems and help people when they really do have a problem, but it's also part of our job to tell them if somebody else is taking advantage of them.
Right. Now, when you go out to see a client, do you charge? Is there a service charge if there's no problem?
No, and that's exactly what he's saying. No, we'll go out and inspect the problem. If we have to get up in a ladder and on the roof, then there's a nominal fee that we charge that we give right back to them if they have us do the work.
Yeah.
But other than that, just to go out and inspect and do things, like I'm saying, there is no charge for that. And like he said in the review, fuel prices are definitely getting to be a bit of a pinch for us here. Looking at P&Ls and you're looking at your revenue and thinking, boy, not so good.
Yeah.
And then you see, your fuel's 64% up. Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
So, but that's all part of being in business and assessing things.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, so let's move on. How has the pest industry changed over the years, and how has Patriot adapted to these changes?
Well, there's a couple different directions we could go with that question, but I think in thinking that question all the way through, what I'm seeing and what James has been telling me out in the field, there are a lot of changes in competition that are occurring. We're finding market shares are being bought out. Local companies are selling. The pandemic didn't do anyone any favors. And so we're seeing large companies come in, and then unfortunately what happens is then your calls get sent to a call center. and you lose that whole personal touch of calling and having a familiar, name or a face. What we found this year is a lot of door knockers. So this is how this works. Companies are sending in college kids that are very comfortable knocking on doors, and they just go through with their iPad, and they're selling services at a very reduced price. They have no knowledge of pest control. They're just playing the numbers.
Oh, sure.
So then when somebody says, wow, it's a really good price, I'll take you up on that, they sign up. And usually within a year, their contract is sold to one of those large companies. And so then the price changes, and you're into a call center, and eventually those customers end up, looking for small business help because it's not a successful way to help people. So, I always tell folks when they tell me about these door knockers, I say, just remember, the old adage, you get what you pay for. And if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so, and that's what these door knockers are doing. But they have success with it because
they're going to get some people.
Yes.
The vulnerable.
Yeah, people that just don't know.
Yeah.
That what's going to happen. They have no concept, and it happens. So that really is. And I talk with some other local competitors. We play nice in the sandbox, and we all have the same complaint about this. Is because it's a shady way to do things.
Yeah. Sure. So you touched on the pandemic just slightly. Has it impacted your business, or how has it impacted it, if it has?
Well, I think it's impacted our business. We all had to change how we do things. Meaning we have to take safety precautions and masks and gloves and all this. But what I think the biggest change is that, we have customers that people either live in fear over the pandemic or they don't. There's very rarely an in-between. And so you'll have some customers that say, I only want a vaccinated person here at my home. And unfortunately, I have to say to them, well, that's a private choice that my employees make. I said, we can certainly just treat the outside of your home. If you don't want us to come in, we can, solve their problems differently if they're concerned about personal contact.
Yes.
And so we accommodate, and because we recognize there's so many different viewpoints, on what the pandemic is and how it's going to continue. So in addition to that, Patty, I would say staffing for small businesses has been a challenge. I help facilitate a monthly business roundtable for business owners with the Springport Chamber. And so 10 or 15 of us get together once a month and talk about topics, real topics that are hard for small businesses. And what I'm hearing is exactly that. It's the staffing, getting people to work.
I hear that over and over.
Yes, and it's a real thing. It's a real challenge. I thought, well, after, unemployment figures changed, and I thought, well, people will start coming, getting out of their homes and joining civilization again and start working. But not only are they not eager to come back to the workplace, their expectations are different.
Yeah, sure.
Than what they
that
were.
As well. Yeah.
Are you?
Everybody's wanting more and
doing less.
Yeah. I think
working from home.
Yeah.
That's a big change.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and I mean, the ladies, I let them work from home on Saturdays, just as a little benefit to say, we still need to answer the phones, but do it in your pajamas. I don't care.
Yeah, and I think if you have that type of business where you can work from the house, and you have a good a worker that you can trust. That's a beautiful thing, but
isn't it?
If you need somebody in a place, they should know that coming into the interview.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's about calling in good candidates.
And when we hire, Patty, we don't hire, I'm speaking more technicians now. We're not looking for people that come from our industry necessarily. As a matter of fact, out of all the people that work with us, I think one came from the industry. Anyway, the bottom line is when that person sits with James and I, is it somebody that we would let into our home? That's what I think.
Sure.
If I'm you know, a wife or just at home and a stranger comes to my door and I'm letting them in, I'm looking at that person, I'm thinking, would I let them in my house?
Good point.
And so James makes fun of me, but he says, you just always want to hire nice people. And I said, well, yes. I said, you know, certainly you have to have the aptitude to do the task at hand.
Yeah.
But the personality, I can tell you, goes so much further, because folks get really uncomfortable when they have rodent problems and pest problems. Some people get very uncomfortable with it. And you have to be able to sometimes talk them off the ledge.
Right.
And our technicians, I believe, every single one of them will take a moment and talk through the service with the person to give them a feeling of calm. And no question's a dumb question. Sure. And we always make sure that we allot the time on the schedule, you know, because we have repeat customers. Oh, we know he's going to Mrs. Jones. She's a talker, and she lives there by herself, and give him an hour. It normally would be a half hour, but we'll give him an hour on this one, because we know that Mrs. Jones needs a little TLC.
Sure, that's part of the service for her.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You know, she wants to make him coffee and, you know, have a chat. And, you know, she's not going to get that if she calls one of the larger companies. You know, Linda and Karen know almost all of those customers and know what their basic needs are and how they react to pests. And so we just react accordingly. And that's why you want a small business.
Yes.
That's the whole point, I think.
I agree with you, and I think that's the nice thing what you said about taking the time, and that makes people want to repeat the business because they know what they're getting. They know that they're comfortable. They know that they're not going to get somebody in here that they don't trust.
Or get a different person every time.
Right.
And you know, when your account gets sold, you never know who you're going to get, and it is never the same person. And when you're calling for service, you're probably calling in New Jersey.
Sure.
You know, at a call center, and they're just scheduling.
Or
and
India.
So,
you never know where you're going to be,
no,
right?
you don't. You definitely don't, Patty. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's why I'd like to think that's why people shop small business. And I know I help with the phones, and you know, I always ask, how did you hear about us? But for a couple reasons, but the main reason is I want to know how my advertising dollars are going, and see where, you know, what works and what doesn't. And you know, it's always the internet, unless it's a senior citizen who has an old yellow book.
Oh yeah,
there's still a few floating out there.
Didn't know there were, but I'm sure
there
a few.
are.
Yeah.
And we did advertise in the Yellow Book, and it was about a month or two ago. An older woman called, and she said she found me in the Yellow Book. I said, may I ask, what's the year on that book? And she says, oh, this is old. This is like 6 years old.
That's good.
And that's what she's using, and she found us.
Found you. That's
that
the
was
bottom
wonderful.
Line, right? Yeah, so as a small business, I know Patriot Pest Solutions makes every effort to be convenient, responsive, and accessible, like you just mentioned. Can you talk about, I know you're really involved in the community as a small, locally owned business, and the importance of supporting small businesses in the community?
That's easy. That's easy. But you know why? Because I want people to support small businesses, not just because I want our business to grow and be healthy, but I know the trials and tribulations that every small business owner faces out there. And you know, when I need an electrician, or when I need an IT guy, or, you know, there is never a time where I'm going to shop big. You know, it is automatically the first thing, who can I support? And being involved in the chambers really helps with that, because we're members of the Springford, the PV, and Phoenixville chambers, but tend to be a little bit more active in the Springford, because when we first opened the company, that's where I went to. And I've enjoyed that camaraderie and being with like-minded people. And it really helped. I learned so much from other people.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, because you know, everybody, you learn from other people's mistakes and their successes. And what the community aspect is very important, because you have all of those people that you know, you trust, and I enjoy it. Now the Springboard Chamber, there's one event that I'm a chair for, the fashion show, which I've seen you attend many a time. Wonderful, wonderful event where, and it's charity driven. And I've been doing that for 5 years, and it's just a lot of fun, and I meet a lot of people. And again, you have to take a little time to give back to the community.
Sure.
I know in a month where I'll be, James and I'll be volunteering at the Rotary event. Have you ever been to Uncorked, which is over there at the Mandarin Park?
It's going to be a first. I got my tickets.
Did you?
Through Phil White, yes.
Okay, good. Good for you. So we volunteer there every year. And that is also, all those that money is going right back into our community. And it's divided up, you know, to charities that are here, you know, in our world. And that's important, you know. It really, to me, it is anyway.
Yeah, it's very important.
So I got a little award here for being
You've
volunteer, if I can brag a little bit.
Yeah.
So the Volunteer of the Year award was at Springford, and that's just because I do their, you know, I get involved. You have to get involved.
Yeah.
You can't not, because I just don't think that people will know you and trust you if you're not out amongst them.
Very true, very true. And this one here, Small Business of the Year?
That was years ago. That was through the PV Chamber. That was a nice recognition for us.
Yeah.
And we do get involved in the PV. We volunteer at their golf outing every year. So, you know, good local community-driven type of organizations. Just
sure.
It makes the community what it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was just going to add, is there anything else that you want our viewers to know about Patriot Pest Solutions?
No, you know what, Patty? I think the big takeaway here is, I mean, I could certainly sell many aspects of the company, but I think the big takeaway is you want to deal with a company that you trust, that's not going to take advantage of you. And I think that's the big takeaway. Oh, I forgot to mention this, may I?
Sure, absolutely.
There's this product that we started using for its insulation. Now, if you would think, why would a pest control company do insulation? Well, most of the time we have to go up in attics, see what the problems are, right? Well, this insulation is called TAP, and what it does is it not only will help you with your utility costs, but it prevents pest problems.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Is it a new product?
It's new to us, not to everybody else, but it's new to us. Over about 2-3 years ago we started with it, right?
Very nice.
Because you're always in attics, and my home's 25 years old, you know, so if you ever had mouse problems, you know how they burrow through the insulation? Well, this stuff eliminates that type of problem because the insulation falls on top of them and eliminates that.
Yeah.
It's a fire retardant. It helps with pests. So that's a new branch off for us. That if I had to put in a little blip for Patriot, maybe I would say, consider getting a quote for that, because it will help your home in so many ways.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to prevent.
Yeah, it's
future
prevent your
problems.
pest problems. Yeah. It's a sound barrier, also fire retardant. So all these things are good things to consider. And so I think that our business might, we might steer that way a little bit more, because we're getting positive feedback. And I can tell you that the larger companies that are selling it at a much more inflated price. So we'll be very competitive.
Good. So can you tell our audience how we can reach you, your address, your phone number, your good stuff, contact information?
Sure. We are located here at Trapp, Pennsylvania, right on the main road next to the Trapp Tavern. Everyone knows the tavern.
Yes.
And we are just a phone call away at 610-489-5136, and you will get a live person on the phone if you call during business hours. Don't call at midnight. But you will get a live person, and so many people do say, thank you for answering your phone.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you just think that's a given? If you have a business, you answer your phone.
Not necessarily. No.
It's not. So that's another good thing, you know, another
getting a live
positive
person
feedback. Get a
is-
live person.
I personally like that.
Yes.
If I get a call and get an answering service, I usually hang up until I
Drive-
get a live person.
Well, you know, you have to go through so many hoops when you make a call to a doctor. You can never get a live person. You have 4 different, you know, things that you've got, 4 numbers you got to hit, and then you get a recording. And it does,
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of our life that we live in right now,
Yeah,
I guess, but
absolutely.
not here.
Focus on all the positives that you guys have, because you
Yeah.
guys have a lot.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for your time, Denise.
Thank you, Patty.
I appreciate it. This was
So
fun.
do I.
Yeah, and call Patriot Pest Solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.